crunches, 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 crunches.
Jeremiah, what are you doing?
I'm trying to think of the best core exercises for my clients.
Let me see what you have.
Looks like you need some help with this.
So you're telling me that there's better exercises for your core than crunches?
So yeah, there's totally better exercises for your core than crunches. I always like to think of somebody who has a weak core as it's like trying to fire a cannon from a canoe.
What does that even mean?
No, come over here, I'll show you. So when you think about the muscles of your core, they are really muscles of stability. And what I mean by that is that they need to stabilize everything in your spine when you do different things with your ball and socket joints, like your shoulders and your hips and your hinge joints, your knees and your elbows. So if Jeremiah was not stabilizing his spine right now, basically firing a cannon from a canoe, he would fall backwards, he would not be able to maintain position, and that's what we don't want. We want you to have a strong, stable spine, and we want you to not have a sloppy core. All right, so when we think about the core, we really want to think about being able to stabilize different forces that are coming at our body from different angles with the muscles of the spine. So those would be forces either coming at us from an anterior or forward direction, posterior direction, rotational direction, or side bending direction, because really there are only a few things that the spine can really do: flexion, extension, rotation, and side bending left, right? So you want to be able to stabilize against all those forces using the muscles of the core. The core muscles that we're going to be talking about here are obviously the anterior ones in the front, which we all think about the rectus abdominis, and everybody talks about crunches and they think that's so important. But as we're kind of talking about here, they are just one muscle amongst hundreds at the core that you need to be training. You also have to train the muscles of side bending on the side of the core. We have to train the rotational muscles. We certainly need to train the posterior chain. So all those different aspects are things that you need to be thinking about when you're designing a well-designed core program that you're doing on a weekly basis.
All right, y'all, so let's hop into the 4 exercises that we're going to talk about today. We selected these 4 because they are really good at helping your body strengthen itself against these destabilizing forces that we just mentioned in there. The 4 exercises that we picked are really scalable in that there's ways to regress them and progress them to make them harder or easier. They're very safe to do, really hard to hurt yourself doing these exercises. And these exercises have been very successful with thousands of patients and clients at Foreman Fitness over the years. All right, let's get into it.
All right, first variation, and this is my favorite one, is the plank. Plank resists anterior forces against your spine and works the muscles in the front part of your body. I know this one is one that many of you have probably done before, so we're gonna give you some finer points on it to make sure that you're doing it perfectly, in addition to giving you variations to make it harder or make it easier. So with your plank, you're gonna set up elbows directly under your shoulders. You are gonna push back through your body, and then what you wanna do is basically create a line from your ear to your shoulder, to your hip, to your heel that is straight. So when I see people maybe doing this exercise not quite as well as they should, they sometimes are raising their butt above that line, as you can see there, or there's also the saggy butt, where you're lowering your butt down low. So we don't want either of those two positions. We want to be, boom, locked right into that straight line with your body. Another point to think about with this, it's not just contracting your abs, you also want to be pulling up and in with your stomach as you're holding position to make that an even deeper, better contraction of those muscles. And let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so what I'm talking about with getting your stomach to kind of pull in while you're contracting your abs in planks, and also really anything where you're doing a very strong contraction of the muscles in the anterior part of your core, is activating those kind of deeper core muscles like the transverse abdominis and others. The way I usually train people to kind of get used to this is taking your hands in front of your stomach and then allowing your stomach to pooch out, so kind of pushing it out, and then activating the muscles and pulling in and holding. So when you're doing your core work, you do not want to have your stomach pushing out. It should be pulled in and then contracted and locked tight. So you want both of those things happening. All right, back to the plank. Okay, so now that you're contracting your abs, you're also contracting that TA to get a nice tight stomach. What you want to shoot for is eventually getting a plank to roughly 2 minutes. Once you can hold that position for about 2 minutes, we can try some of the more challenging variations I'm going to show you right now. You got to drop your hips a little bit. Your form sucks on this. Oh!
God, try from your elbows. One more. All right, so our next exercise is Landmine Anti-Rotation. This is a phenomenal whole upper body exercise. The main point of it is to resist twisting forces. You're resisting twisting. Yes, there's a minor twist in my body, but our goal is to not have the hips follow with it. Our goal is to isolate maybe at that thoracic spine. So, setup is really important. You're gonna walk forward into the bar where it's basically touching the midline of your chest. I like to interlace my fingers. You could stagger your hands, but I would probably switch it halfway. That way you get even force on the arms. From there, I'm gonna straighten arms up overhead. And now when I pick a side, I'm gonna twist you. If I'm twisting to my right, I'm gonna bend my right arm, lengthen my left arm, and then draw the biggest circle I can back over to the other side. You can feel the strain in my voice as I start to twist. That strain is me bracing my core to protect my spine, and that way you know you're working your core about as hard as it can with this exercise. It's very scalable in that if you want to make things a little bit easier, maybe you walk forward a little bit. If you want to make things harder, maybe you walk backward, and or you can change the weight that's on the bar. Great exercise.
Okay, so this next one is my favorite. It's a side plank. It's one of the best exercises you can do to strengthen all the muscles on the lateral part of your spine to stabilize against side bending movement patterns. With a side plank, you want to get your elbow directly under your shoulder and then have your forearm firmly on the ground all the way through. I am a fan of putting down your top hand to take some pressure off the shoulder that you're going to be pressing up through into your side plank. Then what you want to do is get your entire body in a straight line from the tip of your ear all the way down to your heels, similar to a plank. I see people set this up wrong all the time, where they have their legs in front of them a little bit, or they have their legs behind them where they're extending a little bit. You want to be in a very neutral position through your entire spine. From there, you press up into position. You want to keep your neck relaxed. You want to keep your shoulder blades depressed, so a long neck with this. You are pulling up and working these muscles on the bottom side of your core. And same thing with the regular plank. We don't want to see anyone falling down below the line. You want to stay right up in that line the entire time. As far as this exercise goes, I usually like to see people be able to work up to holding for a full 2 minutes per side. Once you can do that, you got a pretty strong core.
All right, y'all, our next exercise here is the walking side plank, or a single arm farmer's carry. We really like this exercise because from a practical standpoint, we carry stuff every single day, so it pays to have a strong core while you carry something. The same idea with that side plank. We don't want to be bending with it. We don't want to be hyperextending against it. Our goal is to walk as normal as possible, as if I had a weight in each hand. Phenomenal exercise.
Okay, for our final core exercise is 45-degree back extension. You guys, if you've been watching our material, have probably seen us do several different videos on this particular piece of apparatus. We absolutely love it for the posterior part of your core, so your posterior chain. With this machine, you're going to want to set it so that it's blocking in a comfortable position, kind of right about where your ISs are in the front of your hips. Then, just like we did with the plank, you're going to want to pull your stomach in, tighten your core in the front, and the goal is to move at the hip joint, pivot down through your hip. We don't want to be flexing the back, so we're coming down, pivoting through the hip joint, and then coming up to top position. At top position, we're looking to line up our core again. You can notice that line there on the side of my body. We don't want to come up and hyperextend. That puts too much pressure on your back, in my opinion, as a licensed physical therapist. So coming down smoothly, coming up to top position, lining up your dots. To make this more challenging, you can take the arms to the front. To make it even more challenging, you take the arms behind the head and complete the movement pattern. And the most challenge would be taking the arms straight out and completing the movement pattern. So that's a great one as well. All right, so let's just talk briefly about sets, reps, how many times you do these things. It's kind of our opinion that you should have something that stimulates the core in all those 4 different positions at least once a week in your routine somewhere. So you can kind of pepper that in however you would like. You could also have a core day. Some people do that kind of thing, but yeah. I'm kind of more of a fan of like putting it in. If I'm doing the posterior part of my body, I'm obviously going to put in the posterior forces of like a back extension. You know, if I'm doing anterior and pushing movements, I'm gonna put in my planks, things like that.
For sure.
How do you usually program?
So I was gonna say the importance of where it's placed in your workout might depend on your intention with the exercise. One of the most common things is starting with core exercises to prime your core so that you can do your bigger foundational movements at a lower risk of injury. But with that being said, you are priming your body. You are not exhausting your body. If you exhaust these muscles and then go into a really comprehensive lift, you might be at a higher risk of injury. So understand the difference of priming versus training and where you want to put it in the workout. Prime in the beginning, at the end, if you really want to fatigue that muscle, I would do it near the end.
Yeah, so don't get it completely fatigued and then go into a heavy squat, right? That's not a great idea. Also, if you are someone who's just starting out with exercise, these are great movements, especially the lower level versions of them that we showed you. You could do a workout to just start to strengthen your core first before you're moving to the more challenging movement patterns of like a deadlift, a squat, you know, a standing push, so that you do have that rock solid core so that you are not firing a cannon from a canoe.
And you never become one of his patients.
That's also a good thing. Don't do it. I don't like patients. Stay a client, not a patient.
Great.
All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Please subscribe to our channel. And also comment below if you'd like to tell us what to make in the next video.
That would be awesome. And if you liked the video, please like it. That really does go a long way.
Have a great weekend.